In this video, I'd like to answer the question, what counts as code? And overall, the answer is pretty simple. Anything that you write into a coding file, to a compiler, will likely be counted as code, unless we explicitly say to not count it as code. And this is where comments come into place. And to help us understand a little bit more what comments kind of are doing, I want to show you an assignment I use with my grade 10s. This is their final project where they have a bunch of instructions about what to do to make a video game. And there's times where I want to maybe give an individual student some tips or some guidance. Now, this document itself is where the student actually has to write all of their design ideas, has to write all their answers, has to do all their drawings. And so I don't really want to actually write on their assignment for them, because this is meant to showcase their work. So what can I do if I want to clarify an instruction or provide an idea or a tip without actually doing any of their work for them? Well, we have this incredible invention that I could use. Sticky note. Stick that on the page, and wherever I place it, I can write anything I want to on the sticky note to clarify, give an instruction, to give some direction, and when the student's done using it, they can pull it off and toss it away, or I can when I'm grading it, and I know this sticky note is what I wrote, and everything else is what they wrote, and it's really easily removable, and really obvious that it's not what they created, it's what I created. And so we have this kind of separate world that is a part of the assignment, but not at all at the same time. It's just kind of an addendum or extra information for guidance. And this is really what comments are in our code. If we have a big page full of code, or even just a couple lines of it, let's write some beautiful code here. This is kind of what it might look like in your mind if you're a little bit rusty or a beginner, just scribbly nonsense. And anything that we write is going to be interpreted as logic, as instructions, as data. And we have to write it intelligently. But we can also surround all of this information with sticky notes. We can place them before or after information, and, well, maybe I'll place it above it here. Maybe at the end of a line to kind of explain or provide a little comment on specifically what's going on in that line of code. And the wonderful thing about comments is that when we run our code and the compiler takes all the logic and tries to break down exactly what's going on and run the program itself, the way that it views the code is like this, with the stickies all gone. They have nothing to do with the way the logic works. They are simply just added information that are mainly just there for the coder to remember how things work and provide instructions for anyone who might work on the code or work with the code at a future date for how to make sense of what's going on here. It's also a great way to set up our project initially. For example, if I erase this here, maybe I don't really have a great idea about how some code I'm going to write is going to work. And so what I might do is create some pseudocode. On the first sticky, I might write, begin by gathering user input. On the second sticky, I might go, process the input and through some conditional statements to check whether it's true or false. And finally, I might output some kind of a response based off of kind of the outcomes of this conditional logic. So I can represent the steps in my algorithm using comments. And then what I do from there is apply my critical thinking and my knowledge of coding to write the algorithm for getting the user input, and then write the algorithm for processing the conditional steps, and then write the logic for doing the output of what the result of this whole algorithm might be. And the comments kind of stood in place as guides, signposts, almost like a summary of the logic I had to fill in. It can be a great way of clarifying for yourself what it is you're trying to solve, and then you can solve the individual pieces after the fact. A super useful strategy. So comments are like sticky notes. They are not counted as code, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't have them. These should be used all over the place throughout your code. I'd be very surprised and disappointed to not see them showing up. The second thing I want to answer in this video is the only code that runs in my project the code that I add right there on my screen? Technically, yes, but we're able to borrow code from other people really easily. The first thing that I need to do is realize that there's a big library of code that's been written by other people. And I'm not just talking about a coding textbook. For example, here's an old AP computer science exam review book, and it's pretty big. It's got a lot of content in it, which is examples in code written by other people. This is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about functional code that could be used to solve problems or work alongside your content in an algorithm that other people have provided that you're able to access. But here's the thing. If we brought along all the code that might be useful all the time, it would get very burdensome. It's like you carrying every book that you need for every class that you've ever taken all at once. And that would be a stack to the roof. I wouldn't be able to hold it. Even this is kind of absurd. It's really wasteful. It hurts my back, it wastes a lot of energy, it's really inefficient. I don't want to be dragging along all the possible other options that I have with me all the time. What I want to be able to do is selectively choose which resource I want. Maybe in some projects, I need this, the information in this book. Maybe in other ones, I need some from this one. Maybe in some projects, I need both. So maybe I do want to carry a few different libraries or modules with me at times, but I like to be able to be selective. So I'm only carrying the big bulk of extra code, extra information alongside my project when needed. And this is where importing external libraries comes in handy. We are able to very easily, at the top of our code in a class or in a project file, just state, I want to import some code from some external source. And what that does is it basically just drops onto the lap of your project the source of pre-solved algorithms, methods, behaviors, functions, all sorts of stuff that you can use in your project that fits the need. You might import a math module that's full of equations and solutions to math type problems. Or maybe you import a random module that has a bunch of tools to generate random numbers. You'll selectively import them when the need arises. You're not carrying around a bunch of bulk. It's kind of a little bit like this. I have a bunch of code written in my project, and if I wanted to import something, I could now take a look behind the scenes and find some awesome code written by somebody else now available for me to access. And maybe there's a bunch of lines of code that now I can just tell my project, hey, instead of me writing a bunch of stuff here, I want instead for you just to take a look down at this borrowed code right here and use that. Someone else has already solved this. Let their solution stand in my place, or let me use it as a part of my algorithm. In Java, you're going to be importing kind of the whole library of awesome code all at once. In Python, you have some more options. You can import all of it at once, or you could just, if you wanted to, just selectively only import one of these pieces. It's almost like you being able to go, okay, in Python, I want just this page, and you rip it out. I should have chosen an older book so I could rip it out actually, but maybe you just want to rip out the one page and have that accessible for you. You have that luxury in Python. So, that said, now you know a bit more about what counts as code, how you can use comments to not interfere with your logic, but still have some great, helpful, organizational, clarifying information, as well as how to avoid the bulk of big libraries of information, but still not sacrifice the ability to draw on external resources of code whenever you need to. See you in the next video.